Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, beauties, and it is a day of avoiding disaster in the LCK. But even with the results of the games, I'm left scratching my head and saying, what is wrong with Gen.G, Mark?
There's a lot of answers that you're going to be wanting to throw around, see what sticks on the board when it comes to the problems of Gen.G. Fortunately for the black and gold, they will find themselves another opportunity to get those improvements, to find those answers out in the LCK, surviving a full Game 5 Silver Scrape series against Nongshim.
And honestly, Gen.G has ended up winning this series, avoiding the disaster that we alluded to. But Nongshim was the better team in 4 out of 5 of the games probably in this series. You have, going back to the second game, 9 times out of 10, Gen.G is losing that one. They're down to like 50% health on their Nexus before they have a heroic stand, before they come back into it. And I mean, case in point, it's a miracle in Game 5 they're even able to get a Zeri pick and the Azir for Chovy, and poor Duro has such a rough series. Game 5, they say, you stuck on Yuumi duty, my brother.
It was a rough series for Duro, and even more rough Game 4 on the Rel in that performance that leads to the demotion to Yuumi duty. And of course, yes, I think it's a little bit of the demotion, but it also is adding the extra egg to the ruler and Chovy basket, realizing gotta rely on the superstars, gotta have that performance if it's going to be do or die in a Game 5, and especially giving them comfort in Chovy's Azir, and we get to see the Zeri come through for Mr. Ruler.
And listen, Zeri has been the 12th most picked AD carry globally so far, and this is only the 4th Yuumi game globally. Again, that's every region that's been playing in 2025. And I know it's Fearless Game 5, but both Chovy and Ruler obviously have great Game 5s, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we remember. They won the series, but you look at the series as a whole, the other games, and it's still underwhelming. Canyon is looking lost at times. I'm not leaving this series feeling any more confident in Gen.G. I'm expecting them in this form to get smashed 3-0 by D+.
And maybe in a different world where you didn't have the D+ Kia, the Hanwha Life matchup before this one that you got to see so fresh in your mind, you'd be able to convince yourself, okay, these aren't that big of a problems. Maybe the gap, they're not going to be, pressured, exposed. These type of mistakes won't be punished more severely than they were against Nongshim, all sorts of things. But that's not the world we're living in. We're living in the world where you saw how good, how talented, how strategically sound both D+ Kia and Hanwha Life are when things are going right for that team. And I think right now, given that form, given that strength that we have seen from the handle and mastery of the Fearless draft, I'm not liking Gen.G's odds against either of their next matchup in D+ Kia or potential final against Hanwha Life.
And case in point, you only have to look at the Gen.G players themselves. After Game 5, ain't nobody clapping, ain't nobody even smiling on Gen.G. The only guy smiling after that Game 5 was Lehens, as he was shaking hands and fist bumping hugs with his former teammates. The guy that just lost and had another great series is a clear mind because there were no expectations for Nongshim, but not even hugs or handshakes amongst Gen.G after winning this series.
And that can be a telling sign. I think part of it might be the exhaustion of playing that 5-game series and the intense emotions that are poured into it, knowing, again, the disappointment, the pressure that is if you lose to a Nongshim at this stage, and what your expectations are, what your aspirations are to go to the first strike event, all that combined into it. And I think you could see that fatigue on the players. But again, part of that goes to that frustration that is in that series, and with that inability to perform to a higher level than your opponent. That's got to be weighing in on this Gen.G team. But I got to give that shout out to the Nongshim squad, to Lehens on that side, smiling after it all, because he knows they've overachieved. They've already set a higher bar for themselves next split. They're going to keep working towards players like Jiwoo on this team, providing a lot of firepower, taking more strides in his career, and Kingen showing us a little bit more that DRX World's MVP Kingen for this team. If those things keep developing, keep coming through, you got Lehenz's craziness, and as a leader for this team, this is a Nongshim that absolutely can throw themselves into that playoff bubble picture of the LCK all the time.
I mean, they pretty much showcased they're better than everyone but the elite in the LCK, which means, yeah, going forward to the next split, relationships cut off with the DN Freaks. Okay, bro, it's the Nongshim era because mainly those two veterans have stepped up. And listen, Fisher had some fantastic moments in this series too. And again, these guys are going opposite guys like Chovy and Ruler, who often are in that conversation, or it's not even a conversation, that they are the best in their role in the world.
Yeah, and it's just easy to get blindsided or, get carried away with talking about Gen.G and their issues and what it means for them moving forward type of situation as the winners. I do want to give that recognition to what Nongshim has done throughout this early first split of the LCK Cup and the growth that they have shown and the challenge they provided to Gen.G tonight. Don't want to take anything away from that. Still, with the focus now moving towards that next part of the LCK Cup, a lot of questions still needing to be answered, need to be tooled around, fixed, if you're expecting to be competitive against D plus Kia.
But imagine if at the start of the split, I told you that Nongshim would go further than T1 in the playoffs and play a competitive near-winning series in Game 5 against Gen.G.
Wouldn't believe it. Wouldn't believe it. As crazy as it sounds, this is wild to think that it's actually come through like this for Nongshim. And it's one of these type of underdog, crazy, out of the blue type of stories that comes through and shakes up that competitive picture in the LCK, even having an effect on a team like Gen.G. Very thrilled about this one for the LCK moving forward. And it does set us up with a very dramatic matchup now with Gen.G and D plus Kia.
Yeah, obviously, storylines are fantastic there, and those two always deliver. Even if one of them is kind of not at the same form, they seem to kind of bring each other to one another's level. The content train, the content farm is over in the NLC. And no, we're not talking about the Ratones boys. They're sitting pretty in the finals. We're talking about Ruddy Esports Game 5 against Bulldog Gaming, the team that the Ratones boys sent into that loser bracket, and it was not a particularly close Game 5. There was absolute Demacian justice. 12-1-5 for Mayatek on the Garen. He's getting solo kills on Perks pre-level 6? Huh?
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I played Renekton as my first top laner, and maybe it sets that, rivalry up type of thing. I don't like seeing Garen doing well and winning in League of Legends. And very much so, I've seen some of the mistakes that I made early days of League of Legends against a Garen, letting him get a kill on you before he gets that Demacian justice at level 6. That's a rough look for Mr. Perks. Ruddy Esports, it comes to an end. So close to making that full miraculous lower bracket run to get back and get our content matchup against Los Ratones, but it falls just short.
And obviously, if you've been following, they've been streaming all their scrims, streaming all their matches, just like Los Ratones. It's a very different vibe, very different environment. Now, you can say Cadril and the boys, less washed up players on that squad, so that's immediately better, but the seriousness and professionalism feel like was at another level. This squad felt more like the meme dream team, especially when you listen to the communication, the comms for the squad, and sometimes the toxicity that's going on. But case in point, right after this Game 5, less than 5 minutes afterwards, Yanko starts talking about his streaming schedule and when he's going to start doing his AD carry challenge. So obviously not that devastated.
Not that devastated, and I think I like that you bring up kind of the meme team. If we go back to the Echo Fox, meme team type of dream team era in the lower, NALCS type of era of what we had. This kind of fits in. Ruddy is maybe I'll call them an upgrade, a step above what that team was performing at, and kind of their commitment and everything else like that. and then you get Los Ratones, and then it is different when you're talking about the two of them head to head. So yeah, I think that is absolutely just a recentering, reorganizing of what the expectations should be for this team and what the project was. Still had a very fun time with Ruddy hitting out onto the Rift and seeing all the content and everything else. And I expect still improvements to be made as we move through the months of the season.
The other side of things that we've talked about with Los Ratones, a potential LEC berth for the guys that play well. I think that ship has sailed for most of the boys on Ruddy. Jankos maybe felt like it was really him and Hums that were in ELO hell. It felt like at times on this series, but I'm not sure. I think this is Jankos fully entering that streamer era. He might be going, I can make the content myself. I don't have to suffer through some of these matches.
I think the realization of this one in comparison to where Los Ratones is and where we're talking about those players and the opportunities for LEC and everything else, yes, very different when you're looking at Ruddy Esports. And I think even Jankos, the guy that you might say has the best chance or most to offer to a professional team at that competition level, very much so seems to be enjoying the fruits of his labor throughout his hard career, and now entering into that personality streamer content creation side where nobody has any questions that he will succeed very well.
Unless a top 3-4 LTA team comes calling. That's the only way I'm seeing Jankos heading back to pro play anytime soon.
Well, you mentioned that Team Liquid, Umti's not exactly been performing so well. I'm not saying that Jankos is the immediate plug and play drop in, but of all the ones talking about in the LTA, if there was to be one,
make a phone call. It doesn't hurt,
Always pick up that phone if you are Steve and Team Liquid to make these type of moves. I will say one of the ones, a little random shot. I don't think we're going to see that Gumayushi on G2 anymore that we were talking about, especially with Hans Sama making a performance like his last weekend.
Yeah, so maybe they'll save up for next year. Team Liquid's going all in, even though Yon has been pretty good for Team Liquid. But yeah, we'll see what's next for Jankos and, Perks, Wonder, all these other guys who did suit up for Ruddy Esports. But Los Ratones is still sitting pretty, as I mentioned, waiting for that NLC final. But that is it today for Liga Unlocked. My name is Eric, here with Mark. Thank you guys for hanging out as always, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.